if all these people around the NFL don't think Geno is a top 10 passer, what are you thinking?
The top 10 is hard. There's some stiff competition.
You know?
I mean, if we're just going off of yards thrown last year, the top 10 guys when it comes to yards thrown, 1 through 10, Tua, Jared Goff, Dak, Josh Allen, Purdy, Mahomes, Love, Stroud, Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence. Outside of the top 10, there are still some ballers. Jalen Hurts, who had a down year last year. Lamar Jackson as well. Really, after that, everyone else they kind of get clumped into one kind of category of just not really elite or outside the elite. Also, just throw Joe Burrow in there, but he only played in 10 games. He'd probably be in the top 10 when it comes to that. There's only room for so many guys to be considered elite quarterbacks. And out of that top 10, I'd get 5 or 6 guys with the title of elite quarterbacks. So why are these guys overlooking Geno? Perception. The perception of Geno, even here in Seattle, for some people, the perception of Geno is a guy that just isn't good enough to win a ball game. He's too old. All the guys that I just mentioned, if Jared Goff does not go to the Detroit Lions to have the year that he has, I think people look at Jared Goff a bit differently because of his age. Tua is young. Dak is what, almost 30 or barely 30? Josh is still in his 20s. Brock is in his 20s. Mahomes is. Love is. Stroud is. I think his ageism has something to do with him. This ageism and thinking that we already know who he is. Yeah, forget that he's been one of the most accurate quarterbacks the last couple of years in this league. We know who Geno is. He's not good enough to win you a Super Bowl. Is C.J. Stroud good enough to win you a Super Bowl? Had a great rookie season. He ain't done it yet. Love hasn't done it yet. Purdy hasn't done it yet. Josh Allen hasn't done it yet. Dak hasn't done it yet. Jared has gotten you there with the Rams. He hasn't done it yet. There's some bias going on, and it comes from several places. I think the style of play, the age of Geno, people just look at these other guys with more potential, which they probably do have because they have more time left in the league. It doesn't offend me that he's viewed this way because I kind of understand where they're coming from, but I think that he is underrated.
Ranking Geno Smith 20th in the league alongside Derek Carr and below Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield in these quarterback tiers that the NFL GMs and coaches vote on, hilarious to me. The last 2 years, Geno Smith is literally the number 2 most accurate quarterback in the league based on CPOE. And he also has the number 1 lowest percentage of incompletions due to inaccurate passes. He is the most accurate quarterback in the league. His EPA per attempt just isn't high because Seattle's not throwing very many touchdowns. I mean, Shane Waldron had this team at a 94% run rate inside the 5-yard line on early downs in the first 3 quarters. That was the number 1 highest run rate in the NFL by far. As a result, they got 6 rushing touchdowns, only 1 passing touchdown. They're 77% run inside the 10-yard line. That's the number 2 highest rate. That's why Geno Smith is just 15th in EPA per play. But look at all these other critical stats for the last 2 years. He's number 10 in yards per attempt. He's number 6 in success rate. He's number 4 in completion rate and number 1 in accuracy. There's absolutely no way this guy should be viewed as below Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield and on the same plane as Derek Carr. No way.
Bump, I see you with the stats already.
Just like I mentioned in 4-down territory, once the Hawks got in the 10 and the 5, they ran the football. It's just a higher percentage play, and I think that Shane Waldron wasn't willing to roll the dice the way that other offensive coordinators are. So what I hear is that Geno's numbers are directly correlated to the play calling. Shane Waldron wasn't the type to get inside the red zone, inside the 5 or the 10 and want to throw the football. These other guys, I laid it out there for you. Mahomes got 22 touchdowns inside the 10. Brock Purdy got like 18. He's not calling the plays. He can't do it all by himself. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the game right now. So his numbers are going to be skewed a little bit off of play calling. And then you factor in his age. Then you factor in just the ability the Seahawks had to run the football and how stubborn they were with it. It deludes, I think, what Geno really is, and I don't even think we've seen the best of Geno yet. That's why I'm excited for this year because I think that Grubb is not going to be scared to let that thing go, and he will tell Geno to do that. The fact that he's ranked below someone who hasn't done diddly squat in the league in 3 or 4 years in Deshaun Watson is crazy to me. The fact that he's ranked below Baker Mayfield, who's had one good year over the past, 4 or 5, is crazy to me. So I'm glad we found this clip from Sharp because he broke it down with numbers.
Well, and if you think that people around the NFL, even people within the NFL itself, coaches, scouts, executives, don't have their own bias and their own narrative, you're wrong. I mean, think about how you feel about other quarterbacks. You know, I mean, yes, they have a ton of information. These are really smart, qualified people, but I have my own biases about other quarterbacks in the NFL and who I think they are as a passer and what I think their limitations are. And in truth, much of that is about the limitations of their own system. And you don't get to really see what your ceiling is until you're given a little bit of trust from your team. We didn't know, your Jared Goff example is perfect. We didn't know Jared Goff's ceiling as a passer so long as he was with the Rams, because every single person, what was the narrative? Every single person said, that's Sean McVay's offense. Sean McVay is the brain. Jared is this idiot that didn't know where the sun rose and set. Like, he's not out there, calling plays, doing anything. And in fact, he's limiting this team because they saw Todd Gurley at his best as being central to that offense and so much more talented than Jared Goff. They saw all the weapons around them. Obviously, Aaron Donald on defense as being so much more purely talented than Goff. Then Goff goes to the Lions, has a ton of weapons, and still really great coordinators. And you think, oh, man, this guy's throwing 3 touchdowns a game. This guy's pretty good on third down. This guy's making some completions. And so even though I think people would look at Jared with Detroit and still give him a ceiling, it's higher than you think. Your points about Geno, particularly that offense last year in the red zone, leaning heavily into the run as opposed to the pass, affects that narrative and makes me wonder if the limitations we assume Geno has are really the limitations of this offense over the last several years, right?
It's
about
the play
how
caller.
you limit your.
It's the
That's
play
what I'm
caller.
saying.
That's what it's. Everything you said was correct. It comes down to Shane Waldron did not let him air it out, got inside the 10 and was scared and ran the football 70% of the time. You have to let your quarterback let this thing loose, especially with the weapons he has on the outside.